So the New York Jets fall to 0-5 as they lose 37-22 at home to the Dallas Cowboys in another game that honestly was not as close as the final score indicated. This was brutal, man. Um, the Jets are now 3-16 since their home opener win last year against New England Patriots, right? Thursday night game, win, looking great. We're going to make the playoffs. And since then, they are 3-16. And as each loss compiles, you lower the bar more and more. At the beginning of the year, as delusional as it is, you hope maybe they surprise you, right? Like people were laughing at the Colts. Oh my gosh, you're starting Daniel Jones. LOL, dead coach walking. The Colts are 4-1, and their only loss came to a one-score game against the Rams. The Colts are going to be hosting a playoff game and be a favorite to win that playoff game, right? And there's always one team like that every year, and you've hoped each of the last 15 years that the Jets could be that team. And then after week 2, you're like, okay, that's not happening, but fine. That was just a hope more than an expectation. Then after, you're hoping they could be a punchy 7-ish win team. And after you go 0-3 to a team that was starting 5 backup offensive linemen and committed 12 penalties, and you got a field goal block touchdown, and that team had 4 drops and you couldn't win, you're like, all right, maybe Vegas was right. Maybe it is just a 5.5 win team. But now you're like, okay, now we're going to play some bad teams. We've lost to 3 playoff teams. What happens when the Jets play bad teams? Miami, you lose. And you talk yourself into, okay, well, we just have a fumbling problem. We're kind of close. This offensive stat analytic kind of looks good, for the 25% of us still holding on to some cope. And then this one it dumps the entire cope bucket out onto the sidewalk, man. There's just no more cope juice after this one, because now you're like, okay, how far away are the Jets from being a normal team? That's what the question that this loss brings in. How far away are we from being a normal team? Not like winning the division, not being a Super Bowl contender. Like, how far away are we from just being functional is my question. And it seems like we're about 25 players away, and with a coaching staff with massive question marks. I mean, it's a really, really tough start. I don't think we can just say, well, it's 5 games. Like, watching these games, man, it is very, very discouraging start. Because you look at the Cowboys, it's like, okay, the Jets are not very talented. Like, this roster, I don't know, man. How many guys are you married to, man? Like, besides Garrett Wilson, how many guys are you married to anymore? How many guys can you go to bat for anymore? I don't know. It's weird. It's like Breece Hall looks like their best player on the field, and he has a critical fumble, and they can't overcome those mistakes. And then he's talking at the podium about like how, and then he'll probably go get traded to the Chiefs, and he'll probably do awesome, and he'll be crucial to their playoff run. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that. We're a losing team, and I don't know how they shake the stench off of that. But they're obviously not very talented. But neither was this Cowboys team. And you have to look at who was actually on the field. Like, the Jets were favored to win this game at kickoff by 1.5. Why? Well, 1, you're at home, so you get a little bit for that. 2, the Cowboys were playing 4 backup offensive linemen. Like, can you imagine if the Jets did that? Can you imagine if the Jets put out Xavier Newman and Max Mitchell? Like, dude, 4 backup offensive linemen. CeeDee Lamb has been hurt. We knew he was going to be out. And their wide receiver 3 was out. So offensively, they had a much less talented offensive line today than the Jets, and they probably had a worse skill position group, because I would take Garrett Wilson, Mason Taylor, and Breece Hall over George Pickens, Ferguson, and Javonte Williams. At the very worst, it's a push there. Now, obviously, Dak Prescott is a much better quarterback than Justin Fields, but let's not make some mistake that this was like the greatest show on turf Cowboys offense here. You're playing backups at 4 offensive line spots. Half your starters on offense are backups. Guys just activated from the practice squad, starting an offensive line, multiple spots. And then their defense, the Cowboys defense, post Micah Parsons trade with 2 defensive starters out as well. It's maybe the least talented defense in the NFL. And is Mike Tomlin coaching them or is Sean McVay coaching them? No, it's shoddy, which good for him. I think he's off to a decent start. I'm not trying to act like that guy's a bum, but it's not as though we faced a Hall of Fame coaching staff, and that's an excuse either. There's no excuse to be down 30-3 to this team, who didn't even play a clean game. You had there was a sky cam, the ball hit the sky cam that could have saved the Jets from throwing a pick six. The Cowboys had three 15-yard personal fouls. They have a false start on their extra point, and they're bringing it. The Cowboys were sloppy in this game. They had backups, and they played with us, man. That's what's frustrating. We're getting punked. We're getting punked out there, man. Teams are treating us like we're not serious. Teams are treating us like we're not serious. And here's every team's game plan against the Jets is just, we're going to wait until you do the Jet thing. That's all they have to do. Just wait you out. Their head coach can sit there with his arms crossed and just wait for the moment. Xavier Gibson fumble, ball game. Michael Clemens pass interference on the first drive on the Bills, ball game. Now they were going to blow us out anyway, but from then on, you'd like, all right, there it is. Pick six against the Bucks, ball game. Braylon Allen fumble against the Dolphins, ball game. Breece Hall fumble against the Cowboys, ball game. And in 4 of those, it was still a one-possession game, but when this team gets punched in the face, they lay down and die. The other team drags our carcass around for like a quarter and a half. Then they activate as a zombie and score 10 garbage time points to make it look closer than it is and to pad Justin Fields' stats a little bit. But it's tough, man. They are really non-competitive. Garrett Wilson's good. Obviously, I think Breece Hall, besides the fumble, had a good game. The offensive line had its worst game of the year. I think definitely. Membu started committing penalties. Tippmann just a brutal rep, lost immediately. Olu, 2 really bad reps, beat across his face. He was out of the game. Max Mitchell was in for a little bit. Simpson, penalties. So the offensive line had its worst game of the year. The quarterback had his worst game of the year. I don't care about the second half stat padding. The offensive coordinator had his worst game of the year, the entire offense, given the quality of opponent. The Cowboys defense is dreadful. And then the defense is still just an absolute sieve. I mean, they're going to probably break a record for missed tackles since that stat has been started. And they're probably going to break a record for fewest turnovers forced since they've started, that stat. 7 is the number. Like, do you think this team is going to force 7 turnovers in their final 12 games? Who knows? You could get a fluky 3 in one game and maybe, but I probably wouldn't bet on it. And it starts to become futile to like nitpick little individual things. Justin Fields is he the guy? No, but I wish it was just that. I wish it was like, oh, Justin Fields sucks and we're going to have the number 1 pick and you pick a quarterback and we're good to go. As that is not the situation at all, man. They got worse than last year. Last year, the whole narrative was they have all the talent and none of the coaching. And obviously they lost like 3 or 4 core veterans, but then you add in some like a Membu and a Mason Taylor and whatever. And then and now it's like, oh, well, we don't even have any talent. So you can't, I don't know, man. It's both. It is so clearly both. Like when you're 0-5 and you get blown out like this, it is both that your coaching staff is off to a really bad start and the talent is even, more limited than maybe we thought it was. Sherwood is looking like a pretty egregious contract, like worse than I know Sauce gives up the touchdown. So the defense is so bad, you almost need Sauce to pitch a shutout every game. Fair or not, that's kind of how it feels at Sauce. And he gave up the touchdown. Stevens has actually become somewhat decent, and Stevens has some fight and some physicality to him. So I'm not even like, I'm kind of done bullying Stevens because he's actually been somewhat okay. Sherwood has been a disaster of a signing, and he is the 5th highest paid linebacker in the NFL. And I don't know if it was just like if guys like him and Michael Carter were complete solid scheme only guys, because you look at Bryce Huff, he goes with the Jets, he has 10 sacks. He goes to Philly, he looks unplayable. Then he goes back with Saleh, and he's like over there closing games with strip sacks. So was Sherwood just a guy who could work in that scheme? If so, that's a pretty tough contract because he's going to be paid as a top 5 linebacker this year and next year. And some of his effort has looked pretty questionable with Sherwood, to be honest. You know, they're sticking Malachi Moore out there at slot corner because they don't have a lot of options. So I give them credit for, you know, whatever they're playing the rookie. I can't kill that move. I'd rather see Malachi Moore out there than Isaiah Oliver in any capacity. So fine. Obviously, he struggled because he's a box safety playing nickel corner as a rookie. Sure. You know, I will say this about the Jets role players, the Jets skill position players that are like so terrible, and that's why they're bad. Even though the Cowboys had a bunch of wide receiver 4s in George Pickens, and they can get whatever they wanted. Every time these guys get a chance to catch a pass, they catch it. Now that Tyler Johnson's done, he had a couple drops. Josh Reynolds catches every pass that's thrown to him. Arian Smith, whenever he gets a chance, he catches it and he does the thing. They had a nice design touch to him, schemed up where he made a guy miss. He got 9 yards on a little yak throw. It got called back for a penalty. Then he had that play on the comeback and he made a guy miss and he drove forward, all 180 pounds of him drove forward like for 5 more yards. And he hasn't dropped any passes. Mason Taylor catches everything that's thrown to him. Breece Hall has been pretty good in the passing game. It's like all these guys are the reasons why we suck apparently, but every time they get an opportunity, they catch the ball. And I mean, Arian Smith, like, if nothing else, man, let's not subject us to Allen Lazard reps. But again, it feels silly to start talking about to play this guy over that guy, or these little minute details that just feel silly because they're so far away. And I know teams, like, we could probably find some example of some team that was horrible and had like a really low, net point differential and turned it around. I know that is possible. It's just hard in the thick of it. It's hard to see that, it feels like they're a year away from being a year away. With this team, man, the offense still cannot find a counter to teams just being so aggressive and blitzing them. And early, there was a couple plays where Justin Fields held it too long, and that was the issue. And then there was a lot of reps today where he had no chance. There was just guys like on top of him as soon as the ball was snapped, because they're not sliding the protection the correct way, or Tippmann and specifically Tippmann and Olu lost a lot of reps today. Again, you can't expect everyone to be perfect, but the offensive line, when you have parts of your team that you've established as a strength, you don't have the margin for error for them to crap the bed, because when this team's offensive line has a bad day, they are so screwed. That is their only chance to be competitive. Now, run blocking, they obviously did pretty well, but the pass protection, I thought it was the worst game of the season in terms of pass protection. So this one's tough. Coach Glenn did say that he's not going to make a change at defensive coordinator right now, which, maybe that's something they will look at the bye week. And I want to be very clear, like, firing Steve Wilks does not change the Jets win total this year. It doesn't. But I think if they want to, maybe it might be worth, and even if they do a thing where it's like he stays the defensive coordinator, but they change the responsibility like they did with Hackett and Downing last year, the Jets really need to figure out defensively what is personnel and what is coaching and what guys fit what schemes. Like, they really, really need to find that out soon, because if you're looking at this team, and most of us are already posting the tankathon with which quarterback are we going to take, and believe me, I'm not sitting here telling you that if we swap out Justin Fields for Fernando Mendoza or whatever, that we're fixed. But there's a good chance if you have the first pick in the NFL draft and you have a quarterback on a bridge contract, you're probably taking a quarterback. Okay, so this just is what it is. It's not even about Fields. Whatever. They could throw anyone in there. Bring Aaron Rodgers back. We'd still be drafting a quarterback. Throw Daniel Jones in there. Whoever you like. It doesn't even matter. They would be drafting a quarterback. So, and then people say, okay, then wide receiver 2 to help that quarterback. All right, you have no third round pick. You've You've made some investments. You spent some money on defense. Okay, then do you want to sign another weapon? Do you want to re-sign Simpson, Myers, some offensive linemen? Like, so you're left with not a ton of capital to fix this defense if we're looking to next year. Which, if they just don't want us looking to next year, then they shouldn't be 0-5. And now you're going to London to face a team with a good defense and a really good coaching staff, and that's probably going to be ugly. So you might be 0-6 at the bye. So now we're officially looking towards next year, unfortunately. You know, it doesn't mean we stop watching the games or whatever, but the games we're watching now are now to inform us about next year, because this year is obviously a sunken year. And you need to find out any information you can get. If somebody is willing to put this guy at safety and move this guy to corner, and it can free up a spot where now you don't have to take a draft pick at this one spot, and it gives you a 4th round pick to spend somewhere else, even if it just does that, it's worth tinkering with defensively. Not to say Tanner Engstrom was good today, but I think he's shown, enough working with the limitations of personnel that, you want to see him continue to get some chances. But it's not even like, oh my gosh, yay, we fire Steve Wilkes. It's all his fault. Yay, now we're great. It's not even about that. You got to try something else to see how much of it is him and how much of it is the players, and how much of it is like certain guys just don't want to be here anymore, and you got to or they just need a fresh start somewhere else, or whatever it is, man. Because the message is not being received. They're not disciplined. They're committing penalties. They're missing tackles. So if the message is not being received, then you got to change the message or messenger, or change the players. And you can't do a ton of roster turnover right now. So I think tinkering with the defensive play caller is a button they could press to try and get some evaluation here. I hope that makes sense on Wilkes. I know everyone is saying fire Wilkes, and he's kind of becoming a scapegoat, but I think it might be worth trying something there. What do you have to lose? Super chat from NYJ. D-line lost the backups last week and this week. Yeah, it's been 3 straight weeks where we have played wretched offensive lines, and guys are regressing. McDonald has regressed. Now, obviously, McDonald needs to play in some better scripts to be effective, but I saw the Cardinals game last year where we got blown out of the building, the Bills game where we got blown out of the building. But McDonald still was able to put up, close to 70 pressures and 10 sacks last year, and he's been a ghost for 4 games. I mean, that's not fair. That's not fair because I have to rewatch this game, but it seems like he's not as effective as he was last year, probably because, I don't know, they had backups across from him last year as well. Quinnen has been dominant against the run, but just not quite there as a pass rusher. I know those 2 guys were so dependent on those 2 guys. It feels like wide receiver. And again, I understand that the Jets are not 2 players away. They're not 2 players away. But if we're evaluating the process of the team, let's talk about the process of the offseason where, I just think like another edge and another pass catcher. It's hard to say it goes a long way because it's 2 guys. So it really doesn't. But if you look at the Cowboys, Jadeveon Clowney and Fowler, 2 guys who, let's be honest, they weren't waiting to play for a contender. Those are 2 guys you just pay them a check and they come in and they play 58% of the snaps and they give you 6.5 sacks and NFL level edge playing depth. There was a lot of mercenaries who could have been had. Maybe you beat the other team's contract by $1 million on a 1-year deal. And they could have released Michael Clemens to save $4 million to get half of those guys' contract. And you got Tyler Barron out there who is just horrendous. Braden McGregor horrendous. So, okay. I don't know. Even in if it's a rebuild year, which, okay, but still there were some moves to be made that could have patched up some glaring deficiencies. And I'm sorry, did Jermaine Johnson need to play 92% of the snaps on his first game back from a torn Achilles? That has to be a record. and he's injured immediately after that. Now, I can't prove that that's why, but I have questions. I certainly have questions about it. How could you not? 92% of the snaps, first game off of an Achilles. It's crazy. It's crazy. You don't have to be a doctor to think that's crazy. It's nuts. Tanner says, would you rather a point for every second Fields holds the ball too long or a point for every fumble? Dude, the fumbleitis is wild. And, it's back-to-back weeks where I'm watching the post game, and both Bart Scott and Willie Colon have said on the Braylon Allen fumble and the Brees fumble, they were like, hey, man, that's just a great punch. It happens. It's a great punch. And my response to that is, okay, fair enough. I'd still like you to be extra cautious and put two hands on the ball down near the goal line when it's been fumbles that have been costing this team games. But I get it. It was a great punch, hit it square on the money. But my point is, then why doesn't our defense do great punches? If it's so easy to do a great punch that we lose a fumble every single game in a crucial spot, why can't our defense force one in a crucial spot? Why can't we do the great punch? Would be my rebuttal to that. Only Garrett should be saved from being traded now. Everyone else should be on the open market. Well, I don't know. I mean, to me, a guy like Quinnen, I wouldn't. Well, look, you answer the phone for everybody, right? Of course. Now, Quinnen, I still think, is young enough at his position because defensive interior players can play really well into 32, 33. So Quinnen could be very, very good for 4 more years and solid for another 2 more years after that even. So I'm not looking to get rid of him, and his salary isn't even that high. I think he's the 8th or 9th highest paid defensive tackle, so it's not that crazy. Even a guy like Sherwood, no one's taking that contract. No one's trading for Jamie and Sherwood. So if we talk about expensive guys, Sauce. I mean, with Sauce again, who if you're another team, would you want to trade a first round pick and take on Sauce's contract? No, you would just say, we'll just draft a corner in the first round who's going to make, obviously a team that's trading a first round pick would have to be a late first round pick. No one's giving up a top 10 pick for Sauce and his contract. So some team that's picking at 26 will say, we'll just take, whatever the third corner in the draft, and they'll be making negligible money. And maybe they'll be 75% as good as Sauce. It's just, it's unlikely, I think. And it doesn't even it's not even that financially beneficial to you to trade a player the year after you extend them. So I think you're more looking at guys on expiring deals. Like if Quincy comes back healthy and the team doesn't plan to re-sign him, obviously Brees, who all but requested a trade in his post-game presser today. Let me see exactly what did Brees Hall say. He said, I'm in my 4th year and I don't have a lot of time left to prove what to do and who I can be in this league. He looks checked out. He looks done. And I'm kind of I get it, man, but I'm kind of over killing these individual players. When people like us on Jets YouTube, we put a lot of blame for the lack of culture on Aaron Rodgers. Too much, way too much. I will straight up admit that. I give my takes. I stick my chest out. When they age to be poor, I will admit it. We in the Jets content community put way too much of the blame on the defense, on the ineptitude of this organization on Aaron Rodgers. Now, that doesn't mean if we had him, we'd be any good. No, we'd probably be 1-4, 0-5. But a lot of those issues persist and are worse, right? And then we get guys like Mekhi Becton. Oh, he's soft. Philly, fine. LA, fine. Well, but it wouldn't have worked here because then here. Sam Darnold will be hosting a home playoff game this year. Aaron Rodgers will be hosting a home playoff game this year. Brees Hall is going to be traded to the Chiefs at the deadline. And he's going to have 150 scrimmage yards in the AFC Championship and be smiling from ear to ear in the postgame. I'm over it. It's the entire organization is like a pit of death. It's a pit of death. And yeah, Brees Hall is kind of soft. And yeah, Mekhi Becton shouldn't have weighed 380 pounds. And yeah, Aaron Rodgers wasn't the beacon of leadership. And yes, Sam Darnold, it took him a long time. Okay. But but you're not going to have 53 CJ Mosleys or 53 Jermaine Johnsons on your team. And at some point, your overall culture, like raising ships, like raising tides, raise all ships, right? However that goes. You get what I'm saying? We don't have that. We do not have that. And you can see it on Aaron Glenn's face that the task of trying to undo that is becoming daunting. And I just don't know, man. This is a tough spot to be in for the franchise, man, because where do you go? Where do you go? I don't know. Yeah, make Woody sell. Pray for us versus Denver. Yeah, what's going to happen when we play good defenses? We played one really good defense in Buffalo. And they don't even have a good run defense, but we fell down so early it didn't matter. I mean, Miami and Dallas are two of the worst defenses in the NFL. Like down there with us. That's the bottom three. So what's going to happen when we play Denver, man? I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, we do stink. That is accurate. What QB would you want? I don't know. I don't know. I like John Mateer. I like Fernando Mendoza, but it's hard to get there just yet. Eventually we will. AZ Thomas Steven signing in tandem was a monumental poor allocation of resources for a team that's balling on a budget. Dude, yeah, this is something that I think is a viable critique because, again, maybe AZ Thomas is good and a good starter in year 3, and that's a good pick. But the Jets, bluntly, after their offseason, if they wanted to meet the goals of being there to win now, which I interpreted by Coach Glenn as compete now. Let's not be ridiculous and say he told us that we were winning a Super Bowl, but he did say win now, and maybe the owner tells me I have to say that to sell tickets. But he also did say this specifically when Quinnen Williams said he didn't want to do another rebuild. He specifically said that it wasn't a rebuild. Okay, well then, looking at this roster, you needed to come away with 3, at the very least, immediate impact players with your first 3 picks. I mean, and then it was a big drop off because I think Arian Smith was like pick 110. So once you get out of the top 100, like, all right, whatever. You got some backups, some role players initially. But that's that 72, whatever it was, overall pick, dude, that had to be starting somewhere. Wide receiver 2, edge 3, safety. You know, to name a few. Especially because Stevens, unlike Cisco, was a 1-year deal where it's like, okay, 1-year deal, but Stevens is a 2-year deal. So now you're drafting a top 75 pick to be a backup for 2 years on a team with a bunch of holes. So I do think that is I mean, now, unless AZ Thomas is like amazing. When it's like, okay, he was worth the wait. So the correct answer is we'll see. But I get what you're saying at the same time. I do. Tanner, appreciate it again, man. We have to think Glenn knew we needed to cut dead weight and draft a QB next year. They went with Fields because it was him or immobile statues. Yeah, I mean, once they look, I mean, no matter what, well, now it doesn't even matter. Like, what quarterback would have made a difference? Like, Daniel Jones looks awesome in Indy. So we could say, like, you should have signed Daniel Jones, which, okay, fair enough. But I don't think he'd be doing that with us, man. So I don't know. I don't think that, like, if Aaron Rodgers could transfer the 13 is the difference between the Jets turnover margin and the Steelers. Like, if he could bring that back with him, then maybe we could win some more games with him too. Or if Jackson Dart, who like, dude, Jackson Dart would not do anything for us right now. Maybe he'll eventually be good, but dude, right now, like, I don't know. Jackson Dart completes like 5 passes, and people are like, "Oh, we should have got Dart." Like, dude, I don't know, man. I don't know. So yeah, I don't care that Justin Fields is like the 24th highest paid quarterback for the Jets right now this year. Whatever. But yeah, they're most likely drafting a quarterback, right? It's probably the most likely thing they do. I think when you look at the timeline of like of when they were hired, and it just kind of lines up that way because let's be honest, if they don't and they're really bad again next year, then they will definitely be fired. Whereas if they take a rookie quarterback and even if they're not winning a lot of games, then he looks pretty solid. Maybe that buys them another year of job security. But nobody's going to care if Fields looks solid next year in year 6 on the last year of his deal, right? So from a job security perspective, that's probably what they do. You know, I know it's like it sucks because it's like it's entertainment at the end of the day, so nobody wants to hear like whining, which I don't think this was. It was a little ranty, but try not to make it whining. I don't know. If you like whatever superhero movies and someone just comes on every day and says how Spider-Man sucks or whatever, no one wants to listen to that. But dude, it's like I don't know I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say. And it's like, oh well, it's still Salah's players and Joe Douglas, and it's like I'm kind of past that, man. Like it's not because let's keep it real. If somebody, and that is true to some extent, but I think we have to discuss like specifically with how bad it's been. I don't think that is an excuse to be this bad because let's say somebody came out and predicted the Jets would be like if somebody on ESPN, whatever, Rex Ryan, Ryan Clark, I don't know who's on ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, is he still on ESPN? Came out and said the Jets are going to start 0-5 and they're going to have, like a negative, whatever, 45-point differential. They're going to get blown out by the Cowboys in week 5, even though the Cowboys are down half the starters on their offense. And have no Micah Parsons, right? Now, the same Jet fan who is saying, no, it was always a rebuild, I knew they were going to be bad, the same Jet fan would be on those Twitter replies saying, lazy analysis, bro, they don't know we got John Simpson, man. They don't know. They don't know we got Jamie and Sherwood, dude. Come on. Michael Carter back. Jermaine Johnson back. We signed Stone Smart, man. They haven't been grinding. Doing the research to know we got Stone Smart and Jelani Woods. Basically, Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. You guys can decide who is who. Right? But then once that result comes to pass, now that thing that we would have said is untenable and ridiculous to suggest and lazy to predict, when it happens, we then do a complete pivot and say, oh no, this was always expected. It's totally like part of the process. That's not honest. Right? Now, maybe there were some of you who were like, we're going to kind of suck. I'm hoping for the best. We're going to be terrible. I see 3 wins. We'll see how it goes. There were some of those for sure. But I think the spinorama is kind of dishonest, man. Like, and I think I've seen less of that after this game. After this game, I've seen less of that. And I've seen a lot of people who I know are like perpetual optimists, like throw up their hands. Like, they don't know what to do. We don't know what to do with this team. Green Bean, what's up, man? Appreciate the super chat. Hey, BJF, fix the Jets first real quick. Okay. Dude. And honestly, I think those are my videos where I feel like those get a lot of views, like the fix the Jets mock off season where you can force anyone to sign with you. And this guy who is probably a late 2nd round pick, we're just going to make him be there at pick 74. Isn't that nice, right? I don't know why most GMs don't do that. But I don't know, Bean. I mean, I could kind of give you an outline of what I think they'll do, but I can't sell you a fix of this team to where they can be like a wild card team in 1 year. I really don't know if we have enough buttons to push. You know, I think Michael Carter is going to be released as a cap casualty. He's injured. That one is just not anyone's fault, really. It just sucks. It's unfortunate. He's injured. They're going to cut him, save the 10 million because no one's going to trade for that contract. He'll probably go to Robert Saleh's defense, and then he'll probably, make an all-pro team or whatever, whatever, how it goes. I mean, I think they'll probably take a quarterback early next year. Again, all the caveats of whatever, but that's probably what they're going to do, and probably a weapon in round 2. And then you have no third round pick, and then you spend the rest of day 3 on defense. Is probably how I'm looking at that draft. And then in free agency, I mean, I don't even know who's a free agent, but you could probably sell me on bringing back the 5-0 line starters. I know no one wants to hear that after today, but there are teams who are winning games with a lot less on their offensive lines than we have, including the team that blew us out today, including the team that we lost to at week 3 against Tampa, including CJ Stroud, who, they scored 1 million points today, and their offensive line is terrible. So I probably bring back those guys, maybe, I don't know. And then you need a couple new safeties, right? Can Malachi Moore start at safety next year? Maybe. Can Arian Smith be wide receiver 3? Maybe. And then you draft your wide receiver 2. I don't know. I think offensively, if you look at the 5 offensive line starters, and Garrett and Mason Taylor, if you have another like solid weapon, it's personnel wise, it's not that bad. I don't know. It's not like if you look at, I don't know, like the Chargers, like look at their offensive line and pass catching personnel, add a 2nd round pick receiver to this Jets team and tell me where it's way better there. Tell me where the 49ers are way better at offensive line and personnel. This isn't the 2018 49ers that have a first an all-pro at position. Tell me where the Seahawks, who have 35 points right now, are way better at offensive line and pass catcher than the Jets. Granted, you're adding a receiver in like round 2, which is a significant investment, right? I don't know. So to me, the offense, like they need a secondary weapon, and they're probably going to draft a quarterback. They got to get more continuity on their offensive line. There's some growing pains with Engstrand, but it seems like the defense is almost farther away. Where it's like, dude, who can play? Who can play? Because you got to get enough guys in where it's like Clemens is gone, McGregor is gone, Barron is like on the practice squad. Michael Carter's got to be gone. Tony Adams has to be gone. Isaiah Oliver has to be gone. Cisco is probably not a guy you re-sign. Oh. Mac Jones, dude, Kyle Shanahan is the best like quarterback friendly coach ever. Like, I don't think Jimmy G or Brock Purdy were any good now. How can you? I mean, imagine if that guy got like a real legit top level quarterback, like put freaking Joe Burrow on that team and they win a Super Bowl. So no, Mac Jones is a backup. If you like his quick release and his mental processing over Fields, but then you're taking away all of Fields' athletic gifts. And I got to be honest, dude, Mac Jones does nothing for this team. In my opinion, like Mac Jones does nothing for this team. Yeah, Quinnen does look slim. Quinnen and Garrett came into this year ready to level up. And what did Brees have? Like 9 yards per touch in this game, but just a bad fumble in a bad spot. Sauce is tackling better this year. I agree. It's just, again, it's, in a crucial spot. He gives up a touchdown, and everything he does is a mistake he makes can be magnified because of how highly paid he is and how everybody else sucks. So it's like the few good players you have, you almost need to be, you feel like they have to be perfect. Like, imagine if Garrett drops a pass in like a third down. It's going to feel like the end of the world because it's like you can't make a mistake because we don't have enough guys who can bail you out when you do. Yeah, Garrett is definitely lived up to his contract. Garrett's been awesome this year. Yeah, Cisco. I don't know, man. Cisco's just like an NPC Madden generated safety. Completely replaceable. Yeah, if Harbaugh can become available, but dude, the like, dude, Harbaugh would retire before working for Woody Johnson is the problem. Unless Woody gave him, like, I don't know, $40 million a year or something. Like, that's the issue with this, you know? Yeah, Mason Taylor looks good. I know Mason Taylor got some garbage time catches, but for a 21-year-old, that's still okay because he's still playing against NFL players and he's showing really good hands and really good body control. So Mason Taylor looks good. Ironically, I'm still, for the most part, kind of bullish on their draft because I think A.G. Thomas will be a starter eventually. And I think you got 3 starters. And I think Malachi Moore and Arian Smith can play a role for you. And even Kiko Mauagoa to a lesser extent can be a guy who's like on your roster. Tyler Barron seems like that was just kind of a waste of a pick, a waste of 2 picks because they traded a 5th round pick to get him. So 2 5th round picks on Tyler Barron, completely unnecessary. But I think it's going to end up being like your just solid normal team draft. Now their veteran investments were very, very questionable. And right now they just look like a poorly coached team. And we have to be able to just say that's what they look like right now. Not everything, they're not making a change, a head coach or offensive. They're not making any coaching changes between now and London. So I know when you say that, people say like, oh, well, you're going to fire this guy. No one's going to want to come here. It's like, dude, we're not saying it. Like, we're just saying what is. We're just saying, like, this is what's happening right now. And Damian Woody is coming on and saying the Jets are very poorly coached right now. I think he would know. Bart Scott on SNY postgame is pointing out obvious, schematic, basic things that the Jets are doing wrong repeatedly. I think he would know. That is inexcusable for a veteran back 7. So right now, and Tanner Engstrand still can't figure out how to gain 2 feet. Bro, do a QB sneak. I know you got stuffed on 1, but it's still going to work 85% of the time. And every time you need 2 feet, do it, especially on 3rd down. Like when Justin Fields gets down to the 1 foot mark and you decline it to back it up 3 yards and get an extra down, I'm like, dude, it's 3rd and goal from the 1 foot line. Do 2 QB sneaks to get 1 foot. What is the probability that 2 QB sneaks ran back to back gain 1 foot? Probably about 97.5%. And what a QB sneak does is it almost eliminates a negative play, a tackle for loss, which happened when they declined the penalty and Solly Thomas makes a tackle for loss. Now you have to throw and you almost throw a pick 6. Dude, 2 plays from the 1 foot line, QB sneak, QB sneak. If they stop your 240-pound quarterback on a QB sneak 2 times in a row, then they can have the ball at their own 1 foot line, and so be it. And maybe you cause a draw, a holding penalty, or get a safety or whatever. It's this common sense. It's amazing to me how little they've leveraged Justin Fields' biggest skill set on 4th and short. But again, it's like that doesn't even matter, right? But it all kind of matters. But if you add up everything like that, it does matter. Sam Darnold looks like he might win MVP. Oh my God. Caleb Downs. Oh, dude. If another team thinks that it is a good choice to pick a safety top 3, I'm happy to let that team be correct about it. He's awesome. He is awesome. But dude, if you're not going to take a quarterback, you got to trade out and get a bunch of picks. That's how I see this upcoming draft. Ruben Baines, Caleb Downs, like, dude, if you're picking top 3 and you don't want a QB, get out. Pick up the phone, move somewhere within the top 15, and still get an awesome player and fill all these holes in your defense. Or take a quarterback that you love. To me, like, those have to be the two options. Because there's no Myles Garrett. Now, maybe Caleb Downs is as good as Myles Garrett, a prospect, as a safety, but it's not an edge. It's not a left tackle. There's no Julio Jones. There's no Myles Garrett. Maybe someone will end up being that guy because Aaron Donald wasn't that guy. But unless there's someone like that who is a rare prospect, once every 5 years prospect at a premium position, either you take that or a quarterback, you take that, or you trade down. I just can't imagine a safety with the very rare, which what you hope to be the lowest pick this team has in a long time is what you always hope when it's a top 3 pick. I can't imagine spending on a safety as phenomenal as Caleb Downs is, and I would love him in this defense. But dude, he's awesome, man. I just can't. Why are they forced to draft a QB? Is Fields a problem? Yes, but the least of our problems. Trade back and build the roster. Well, because, dude, as a fan, I mean, Wild Wave, I think you're probably, I don't know how old you are, but you know that you're going to be rooting for this team for, decades, probably. Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, they're looking at like a 3-win season right now. If they trade back and quote unquote build the roster, and that gets them from 3 wins to 6 wins, they still might be fired. So they're not forced to draft a QB, but there will be immense pressure for them to draft a quarterback. Right? Fields could look good in every game, like whatever, and we can show whatever stats we want. If they go like, now, look, man, the Lions stuck with Jared Goff. Some guy told me that on Twitter, but I'm like, all right, man, dude, Goff went to a Super Bowl and was like a 4,600-yard passer and made a couple Pro Bowls. You know what I mean? So there's gonna be pressure to draft a quarterback. Doesn't mean they have to, but there will be pressure. There will be pressure. And the reality is when you have a pick that high, ownership, not just Woody Johnson, lots of owners, man. Now if you want to pick Mason Taylor or this other tight end or whatever, the GM gets to do that. But dude, you bottom out and you have a top 3 pick, owner is going to nudge you one way or the other. It's unfortunate. That's the way it goes. That's why I think looking at the beginning of the season, it was imperative the Jets looked competent. And everyone who's saying it doesn't matter if they go 0-17 or 8-9 because both of those missed the playoffs is completely missing that point. Go 0-17. Well, go 0-17, you probably get fired. But go 2-15. The owner is going to say, okay, because this is how Woody Johnson's mind works. Woody Johnson sees one thing. Woody Johnson sees quarterback. That's all he sees. You could tell by how he operates. You could tell. When the Jets bottomed out in 2022, he was like, well, we just need to get the quarterback and we'll be fine. Now they went and got the quarterback. He got hurt, and then massive flaws because in 2022 it really looked like the quarterback, right? Defense was so good. In 2023, you really saw flaws with offensive coaching when they went with Michael Floor from Michael Floor to Hackett. It was like, dude, Zach Wilson sucks, but this coaching staff, particularly offensively, was not it. But Woody Johnson at the end of your presser was like, we're fine. We're still really good. We just didn't have our quarterback and we'll be fine. They get worse the next year. Then, we get Aaron Glenn's decision, Darren Moody's decision. Woody Johnson had to sign off on them releasing Aaron Rodgers just because of the financial ramifications alone. An owner always has to sign off on that. You can't have a guy on your books for a gazillion dollars and not be on your team and your owner not sign off on that, so he signs off on that. Now, if his team wins 3 games, Woody Johnson's brain, no matter what happens, no matter how Justin Fields plays, Woody Johnson's brain is going to say, well, our quarterback must have sucked. That's why we lost a lot of games. And he'll say, you guys need to pick a quarterback at number 2 or whatever, and you need to make him good. Otherwise, you're fired. That's how this goes. That's how this goes, whether we like it or not. This stream has been positive to you, man. What are other people saying? God, what are other podcasters saying? If this stream has been positive, I can't even imagine. Sauce is overpaid. We should trade him. Who's going to want to acquire his contract though if he's overpaid? Right? That's the issue. Yeah, Green Bean, it's yeah, I mean, the defensive coordinator, it's just do they fire him now or do they fire him at the end of the year? Right? It's probably what it's going to come down to. So whatever they want to do. ABT is tough because you can't sign him to be a starter. And there will be some team that's desperate enough that will give him, a shot to compete to be their front runner to start. Maybe there's some team that will draft a 4th round guard rookie and have ABT kind of in there. And then if he gets hurt, they go to the rookie. But Tittman's look good at right guard. And Myers has been okay, and they've both been durable. So if Simpson, Myers, and Tittman can get through 17 games, you got to roll with them. And ABT is not going to sign for straight up backup money. I would love ABT. I would bring back ABT for $5 million to be the 6th offensive lineman because he can play 4 spots, but some desperate team is going to pay him more than that, even coming off the injuries. You can't move. I don't think, like, if they want to move Tittman back to center and let Myers walk and then bring back ABT, you can't do that because he's going to get. And if some other team bets on him staying healthy, then let them make that bet. It's unfortunate, but it just might be it with ABT. This is how many years now? 3 years out of 5 he's missed almost the whole season. Yeah, we could have done, like, dude, anyone, like, just randomly, like, if they just randomly did it, like when you miss a fantasy draft and they randomly assign you players, if the Jets just had auto simmed their off seasons the past 15 years, like, just by chance, they would have made a wild card at some point just by sheer chance. Yeah, Jamie and Sherwood looks like a 5th round. He looks like a 5th round guy who was a linebacker, who was a safety in college. I don't know. But maybe he was overrated last year because he gets a lot of tackles that are, like, not impactful. He was better than this. He was much better than this last year, Jamie and Sherwood. I don't know. 47, is that Andrew Beck? I think he did score a touchdown. He also had a dropped pass. I think that was our only drop of the day. It was on a 4th down. Wanted Baker Mayfield instead of Aaron Rodgers, and this past offseason wanted Danny Dimes. You were all laughing at me. I was correct. Well, I don't remember you wanting Daniel Jones, but if you did, maybe I would have laughed at you. Maybe. I don't think Daniel Jones to me is funny because, well, I didn't see him playing this well this year. But certain guys just become like memes, like, oh, you're a joke. He's like dorky. He doesn't have aura. Like Justin Fields has aura or whatever. But Daniel Jones is like a low end starting quarterback. This year he looks way better than that, but that's who he's always been. And so it's like, yeah, I think certain guys, like fans, get this, like they get this stigma attached to them, like, oh, you're trash. When it's like they're not that much worse than other guys who don't get as much hate. I'm trying to think of another example like that to compare with Daniel Jones, but I think you guys get what I'm saying. Would it have mattered? No. But yeah, obviously Daniel Jones is looking pretty good. Baker Mayfield, that was the call because he's proven that he is a multiple year solution at the position. So yeah, that would have been nice. Right. Is the problem with the Jets is, man, it gets exhausting saying at the time it was the right decision. At the time. But the context. And we come on here. Us Jet podcasters. We're like Jet only fans. Give me a super chat and I'll tell you Tyler Johnson is good. God. That's what it feels like at this point. The sad part is I believe it. And it wasn't even that time. The cope I pedaled was 7 wins. 7 wins was the cope I pedaled. I even say playoffs, man. I said 6.5 wins was my over-under. That was the cope I pedaled, you guys. And it still ages to be egregious. But I'm sick of the decision at the time. No, it's the wrong move. If it ages to be bad and make you worse and it makes another team better, then it was the wrong decision. Right? Especially with young players, like players that go on and have success for multiple years at premium positions. Like Bam Knight scored a touchdown today. Who cares? That's just like people point that out just to like bask in the pain, right? Miko Hardman scores on an end around in the Super Bowl. Who cares, right? But bigger moves, like Sam Darnold, like Todd Bowles, like I don't know, man. Like you can't, like it's always no at the time with the information we had, but it's always wrong though. So no, it's not a good decision if it ends up being bad over and over. It's not. Joe says, Buffalo, in your own words, we are not qualified to draft a young quarterback. No, we are definitely not. Our team is sufficient. Yeah, but it goes to Joe. I understand that, but a couple things, like I have no faith that if we draft a young quarterback, like we will be able to provide the infrastructure for them to be successful. Even though I feel like the offense is not that far away, like still just looking at the overall product, it's hard. It feels like a monumental task for a rookie QB. But the thing is, teams that don't believe they have a long-term solution at quarterback. I don't know what Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji think about Justin Fields, but if they thought he was the long-term solution, then they should have given him a 4-year deal and locked him up below market value. But they gave him a 1-and-1 deal. So, okay. And if you're very bad and you have that high pick, they're going to be pressured to take a quarterback. Unless Woody Johnson comes out and says, you know what? You guys have like 4 years to figure this out. It's such a mess. I'm going to be hands off. I'm not going to jump in and meddle. You have my word. You have 4-year contracts. You're going to be here throughout that whole contract. Do what you need to do. Then maybe they don't. Maybe they trade out, build the team, try to get a quarterback next year. Maybe they do. I don't know what the messaging is going to be from ownership at the end of the year to where they're nudged. So it's almost like it's not even like oh, we're just simulating an offseason as like a Madden franchise where you're going to be the GM for the next 10 years and you're trying to put the pieces together. Unfortunately, NFL timelines don't operate like that. Unless you have an owner like with the Giants. It's kind of crazy that they're still there, to be honest. But he has said to the coach and the GM, he's like, you guys, they've gotten a good amount of job security. So they didn't get reckless in the draft before that with a QB trade, although they tried to. But so maybe Woody Johnson is giving them that messaging, but we don't know. And if we don't know, we have to kind of assume that it's been like it's been in the past with Woody. Are the Titans really about to win? No. Are we going to be the only winless team? No. Come on. Oh, my God. No, because last week, Ian from Jet Central made a video. He was like, are the Jets the worst team in the NFL? And my response to him, I was like, no, but only because the Titans exist. And now the Titans, it looks like, are a field goal away from getting their first win. I shouldn't be a hater on the winless Titans, but I don't want to be the only winless team. Misery loves company. Appreciate the kind words, Chris CB, as always, brother. Garrett Wilson isn't that good. He never does anything when it matters. Well, he can't control when he's targeted. You know what I mean? Like, he can't. Whenever he's targeted, he does good things. What can he? He cannot control if they don't start throwing him the ball early. He can't control that. Garrett is one guy I will stand up for. Like, we overrate all our players, and even up through his first 3 years, maybe we overrated him. Not this year. Garrett has been phenomenal this year. He's been individually phenomenal. I will go to bat for Garrett Wilson. And every other week, I'll go to bat for Quinnen Williams, Armand Membu, and maybe that's about it. Mason Taylor is etching his way into that category because for a 21-year-old, I think Mason Taylor is, I know people say, oh, it's like all check downs. Like, that's how tight ends get production, dude. Jason Witten is like top 10 in catches in the NFL history by doing exactly what Mason Taylor did today. 8-yard hitch routes. And the Titans did win. Wow. Okay. Woody gave the mandate to tank this season, but if that was the case, I think they would have spent like no money and they would have eaten all the dead money this year. You know what I mean? They should have tanked more economical if they were going to do that. How many losing seasons can we take? I don't know. I do not know. Got to trade Brees. I mean, yeah, I'm sure that he'll be shopped, right? If you're not, it doesn't seem like he wants to be here. So he's not going to resign a free agency if he doesn't want to be here. So is like a 4th round pick, if you can get that, maybe that's high. I don't know. Could you trade a 4th round pick and could you trade Brees Hall to get a why am I struggling? Could you trade Brees Hall and a 7th to get a 4? Brees Hall and a 6 to get a 4? even that is more valuable than him being on the team on a team that's going to win no games. It's not even against him. Like he's good. Our offense will miss him um as much as we can miss anyone because he is one of the few guys who can has the possibility to make a play, but it still probably doesn't change your win total on a lost year. So yeah, even if you can get anything, you probably trade him, right? It doesn't mean he's trash. It's just doesn't seem like he wants to be here. So yeah, I think Brees could do good somewhere else. I think you're definitely correct. Yeah, we don't need to tank on purpose. They're just doing it because they suck. Nobody is forcing y'all to be fans. I'm kind of past comments like that, man. Like, dude, what do you want us to say? You know, what do you want us to say? You know, we start that when we can't defend, when there's nothing on the field to defend anymore, then people start lashing out at each other. It's your fault, John from section 308. Just kind of not entertaining that anymore. You know, we find all these make believe enemies instead of like the billionaires and millionaires who suck at their job. No, we don't find a new team. We wait till this one's better, and until they are, we just talk about the state of reality of what is. That's it. I don't even believe in optimistic or negative. I don't even know what that means when people say that. People say, "Oh, why are you a negative fan?" Well, I'm just saying what is as best that I know what is. I'm observing what is to the best of my knowledge. Sometimes it's more correct than others. But if I were to look at what is and say that it's something better than that, that's not being optimistic. That's lying. That's lying. Why would you want to be lied to? Now, maybe I'm wrong, but it's not being negative. Like this is what is. Like look at it's dark outside. If I told you it's light outside, is that being optimistic? No, that's lying. Why would I lie? Doesn't make any sense. You see potential. So tell me the potential you see, and then we go back and forth. I say, hey, yeah, maybe you're right there. Maybe you're wrong there. Maybe I disagree. Whatever. We go our separate ways, and it's all good. We're both Jeff fans. It doesn't have to be this personal going back and forth at each other. I hate when it gets to that part of the season. I mean, what potential do you see? I probably agree. You like Membu? I like him too. You like Mason Taylor? Garrett Wilson? I like him too. There's not a million bumps on this team, which kind of makes it more frustrating of why they're losing. But it can't never be anyone's fault. Because there's the percenter fans where it's like everything is amazing. Well, Michael Clemens gets all this hate. He's gonna like he'll defend like the worst players on the team. Where it's like, dude. And then like if you point out the obvious, like people will like attack you. Like that's not being positive. It's not being positive. It's not being positive to like attack another Jet fan to defend to fall on the sword for Woodrow Johnson. That's not positive. That's toxic too. Now people can frame it in positivity. They could frame it like they're supporting the team. But if you're lashing out at other people who have the same shared common goal as you in defense of an owner who upseason ticket sales, and if you're out of market, you have to pay $1 gazillion a month to watch the game on a stream that barely even works half the time. And you've lowered the bar to the point of where you just want to see a morsel of pending competency, and they can't even give you that, and the owner laughs all the way to the bank, and you're more upset at like other fans for not liking it than that. That's not positive. That is toxic behavior. So I'm kind of done with that, to be honest. Now I get it if people are like flying a banner that says "Fire Glenn" or whatever, or like really leaning into the misery in a way that seems like they're enjoying it. I get it, but then go take it up with them because that's not me. And from what I'm reading, it's not 95% of the chat. 95% of the chat is just talking about the team. So we got to stop doing that. That's not positive. That's toxic. It's toxicity that you package in like a supporting the team kind of way to act. People act like assholes to other fans. I don't like it. Now, I'm not saying that, what was your name, Xavier? I'm not saying that's all you, that you were doing all that because you just made like 2 comments. But in general, I'm kind of past that, to be honest. I'm kind of past that. I don't like it. Like, dude, who else? Like, dude, I go to work with Bills fans. They want to fire McDermott every other year. Ravens fans want to fire Harbaugh. He's won a Super Bowl. He has one bad start where it looks like he might miss the playoffs. They're done with him. They're done with him. There's no control group to the Jet fans or impatient experiment because nobody has ever done this before. So anyone who is still here and not actively rooting against the team or like rooting for injuries or like being an insane person is cool in my book. Truly. And is a good fan. Because what else are we supposed to do? We watch the game. It sucks. We talk about it. We hope it gets better. It typically doesn't. Imagine how the players feel when people are booing. Maybe they should play better because fans do that in every stadium. I don't know. I wasn't at the game booing, so I can't speak to that. I'm not a booer. When things are going bad, I just sit in my seat and I sulk silently. That's my move when things go bad. I go silent. Never been much of a boo guy. Yeah, it's all no, we're cool, Xavier. We're cool. It's all good, man. I'm just saying, like, I don't like when we start going at each other and like blaming other fans for things going poorly. I don't like that. Anyway, who cares what I think about that? Probably not you guys. A lot of comments about the offense, but I think defense is a real problem. I mean, everything was a problem today, but the defense has definitely been worse than the offense throughout the season. And the kicker and punter have been pretty good, but the special teams overall has still, they can't bring a kick back past the 35, and they fumble kicks. And there's been a couple of times where a kick was going to go out of bounds, and the offense has definitely been better than the defense, but both struggled today. Yeah, I silently sulk when things go bad. I say no words. Say no words. Like when Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles, I didn't speak for like 90 minutes. I muted the broadcast and I just sat there. And then I watched like Zach Wilson throw an interception to Milano, and then they won, which was weird. But yeah, I didn't that was still the worst. That was still worse than this because I had hope. We had hope. That one, the Rodgers Achilles injury, it was a couple weeks, man. It was a couple weeks. Or even my buddies were like, dude, it's a sport. Like, you got to tighten up. You're 30 years old. And I'm like, I don't care. You don't understand. You don't understand. 4 plays, man. 4 plays. 4 plays. I'll never get over that. Ever. You mentioned the Colts jump. Their coach was very good from day one. Was he really? I thought they were like on the hot seat to enter the year. I mean, to be fair, the Colts did win a decent number. Holy crap. The Raiders suck, man. Geno Smith is washed, and so is Pete Carroll, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, the Colts went 8-9 last year, and they had like bad quarterbacks and not a ton of talent. So we would have signed for that. Like, was last year's Colts team, supremely more talented than this year's Jets team when they were pivoting back and forth between Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco? I don't think so. I mean, they definitely had better pass catchers, but this is before they had Tyler Warren. Yeah, like I don't know what to say, man. Anyway, what's the rest of this comment? They were losing but competitive without a QB. Yeah, I would have signed for that result. 8 and 9. I think that's fair to point out as like, yeah, that would have been acceptable. What's up, Jake? Appreciate it, man. I can only imagine what your stream was like. I haven't gotten to it yet. That'll be for tomorrow's commute. I'll listen to that on a brisk Buffalo fall morning. That'll be hilarious. That's usually my go-to. I'll listen to Badlands tonight. And then Jake tomorrow morning for the rants. And I always see, dude, my guy Ian from Jet Central, man, this team is going to take his soul. Ian deserves better. He really does. You know, the rest of us, whatever. But not Ian. Ian deserves to be a content creator for a good team. He really does. It's a shame. Truly a shame. It's so funny to watch the start of his videos when they lose. Like, I think last week he was like, what a waste of 3 hours. What a waste of time. Like, every time, man. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Ian, because that's the thing. People are like, oh, people say, oh, you're way too positive, you're delusional. I'm like, no, that's just who Ian is in his life. Right? He's genuinely believes like they're going to be good and have hope. And you kind of need some of that. You have to have somebody who keeps the vibes up. But when it goes bad, he doesn't lie about it. You know, he's keeping it real. Even though, okay, the biggest, like, I guess, non-fans of like the Glenn, Muji, the offseason, even them, some of you are probably in here. Did you think it would start this bad? I don't even think, like, maybe 5% of us thought it would start this bad. Let's talk Jets. Yeah, I listened to a little bit of everybody, man. Tyson's always good for a rant because Tyson's rants, it's so funny because it's sad, but it's funny. But you could replay. You could go back and just type in Let's Talk Jets radio rant, and you could watch one from 2016, from 2018, from 2022, from last year to this year. It's the same. Tyson's like, they look dazed and confused. He says that every time. It's great because they do. They do look dazed and confused. But it's the same. Yeah, it's the same stuff, man. It's pretty wild. You expected to go 5-12? Yeah, I think that's probably about reasonable. You expected an 0-5 start. Yeah, but dude, did that include the Cowboys not having any starting offensive lineman or a CD Lamb or their wide receiver 3 and losing by, being down 30-3? I gotta call you there, man. I don't think you anticipated that one. Without to be able to tackle, that's fair. From now on, I'll be spending my Sundays doing productive things. Yeah, here's the part of the it's definitely that part of the season, right? Where, like, even today we were out and for like the Pittsburgh game, there was no way. I would have had to be home by like 12:15, get the stream on, get everything set up, ready to go. But even this game, I was like, yeah, I'll miss the first half of the first quarter and then just rewind it and then join live. Like, it's that part of the year. And then for some of us, like, who don't make videos about the team, it's probably even less of a commitment than that. It's kind of how it goes, but I still will watch every game. I watched all of this one too. I watched it down to the end. Even our nice little 2-point conversion. Shout out to Andrew Beck. You're 4-1 in fantasy. That's pretty good. But I'll leave it there. Appreciate you guys hanging out. If you want to hit the thumbs up on your way out, that'd be cool. And go Jets.